The last part of this assignment is to take two pictures and take elements of each and put them together. So we've got this lovely couple here that got married, and the picture is nice. Well, we've got two pictures here. And the problem is she's smiling, nice and bright, shiny face here, but he's got his eyes closed. Here he's got his eyes open, but she's not smiling. So we want a little bit of both, right? We want her nice smile, but we want his eyes open. He's not smiling in either, so I guess that doesn't matter. So lots of different ways we can do this. We can do it a bunch of wrong ways, and there's some right ways, multiple right ways to do it, but I'm going to show you the way I like best. So I want to use this picture because she's smiling, and it would be harder to get her smile on here, plus her eyes are a little different when she smiles. And here, he looks the same. His eyes just aren't open. So I'm going to take this one and take his eyes, just his eyes from the other picture, and bring them into this picture. So we are just going to use a mask layer over here and mask out everything but his eyes. In fact, before I do that, so that the picture's not quite as big, so when I'm resizing, because I might need to resize, I don't want to resize it. I don't want the box to be so big. So I'm going to just crop right about here. I don't want to take everything out, but just so I can see his face around his eyes really good, and so that it's a little smaller. Now I've got a smaller image to work with. Now I'm going to do the mask layer right here. Click a mask layer, B for brush, or click it over here and make sure black is on top. And I'm just going to mask everything out but around his eyes. And I don't want to get everything out just yet around his eyes. And I'll show you why. But now I've got mostly, make sure it's all gone around the edges. I'm going to get my move tool, just click and drag that up to here and drop it, and it brings that whole layer over, that whole masked layer. It's non-destructive, so I can get it back if I need it, and I will likely need to get something back. So I'm just going to place it over the top of his other eyes and just kind of guess where they need to be. But as you can see, either the forehead or the nose doesn't line up. The forehead's great right there, but the nose doesn't line up. If I line up the nose, the forehead is way off. So pictures are always different perspective. Maybe it was zoomed out a little bit, or maybe they shifted positions. So we're just going to do our best and just get those eyes in there in the right spot. Now, a couple things to help out. I'm going to change the opacity of this layer to about 50%-ish so that I can see the layer below it. Now, it's kind of snapping to the grid, which is bugging me because I want to get it perfect in there. So if you hold down Control while you're clicking and dragging, it's nice and smooth. And I'm going to zoom in also. Okay, so if I hold down Control while I'm clicking and dragging, that snap to grid goes away. Now, I'm looking at the eyebrows mainly because the eyes are different, but the eyebrows should be about the same. So that's a good spot right there. But look at the forehead's not even close to the same spot. And the nose is not lined up either. So I'm going to, well, I'm just going to line up the eyebrows. Now the problem, if two things, the eyebrows looked great, but the nose didn't. So it's probably the wrong size, plus the forehead is in so much farther than before. So I think I need to resize it. So make sure that you've got this Show Transform Controls selected so that you can see the bounding box around it. And this is why I didn't want to bring in the whole picture, because the bounding box would be way out here. So I'm going to click, I never want to squash or stretch. Okay, I never want to do that. So I'm just going to say, nope, don't apply that. I'm always going to grab the corner and hold down Shift. Now I just need this a little bit bigger. Bring his forehead out to kind of match the other forehead, but now the eyebrows are off again, so I'm going to hold down Control and move it a little bit again, and just kind of get a feel for how big I need to make that. Whoops. Hold down Shift. And that's looking pretty good. Doesn't have to be perfect because I'm just going to get the eyes, and perspectives change, so that's another, I mean, you got to keep that in mind, so it's tricky. All right, now I'm going to take that layer back. I'm going to take the bounding box because that's bugging me. Oh, I apply it, Show Transform Controls, and now I'm going to take the opacity back up to 100% because I don't want his eyes faded out to the other picture. And that looks good, except I've got some issues with her right here and with his nose is duplicated. So I'm going to do some more masking. Get my brush tool, make sure black is on top right over there. And I'm going to take out most everything but the eyes. That looked pretty bad, so I might need to fix that. Come down here and get him back up against her hair because that's important. Looks like his eye might not be big enough. Let me just see. And then I can click this eyeball right here and see him open and close his eyes. Kind of creepy. Make sure they're the right size. That looks pretty good. The eyebrows are moving though. So let me try something else. I'm going to bring that layer back down. The opacity of it back down. Get my transform controls again. I might try and rotate this a bit because it looks like maybe he's leaning a little more in this picture. Yep. And his eye just doesn't look quite big enough to me still. I'm going to make it a little bigger. I'm going to line the eyebrows up, but I'm going to tilt it a little bit as well. That way the eyebrows will line up a little better. And the eyes, more importantly. Okay, that looks better to me. So I've just rotated it a little bit. Now I'm going to change the opacity back to 100%. I'm going to grab the mask layer, and, well, it looks like it might be okay. That's pretty darn good. Now there's stuff down here that I probably don't want to show, so I'm going to get my brush, just mask out everything that I don't need showing up. The nose is a little bit messed up, so I'm going to change the size of the brush if it will let me. What's going on here? And I'm going to get the white color back. Yeah, so there's some issues with his nose because it's changed a little bit, so I'm just going to have to be really careful around the eye and mask what I need. Whoops. Oh boy. I'm pressing X to go back and forth. I need my brush also. Get the eye and only what I need. And, you know, I'm going to go back. This has become really bad all of a sudden. I've transformed it right there. Change the opacity right there. Clone some stuff out right there. Okay, that's where I want to be. Now, I've got my mask selected. And I want to unmask, so white, the color white is what I want. And it looks like the nose has changed a lot, so I'm actually going to go back, press X to black, and get a little more of that eyebrow up there. Or a little less, I guess. So you can't just keep going back and forth between black and white and clone more or less, or sorry, mask more or less. Okay, looks great. So she's smiling, he's got his eyes open, we're all good to go.